Hi, everybody. This is our fifth interview session with the Park Slope Windsor Terrace artists, and I'm delighted tonight to have Dara Oshin and Raya Dukan. We are going to have a half hour to do both interviews. Now we're going to start tonight with Dara Oshin, and I want to welcome her to the interview. And Dara, you have a very interesting background. You are nature inspired. You use multimedia, and you grew up near a farm, but then lived abroad for a decade. And I'm very curious about where those two things or three things were. And also, you did a children's book. That's pretty cool. You want to tell us about that?
Sure. I grew up in New Jersey near a farm, which is unusual, I guess. My house backed up to a farm that grew wheat and had cows and pigs and chickens, and sometimes they'd be escaping into our yard, which was kind of fun to watch my mom and dad chase them away. And then behind that, there was a horse farm where I used to ride horses in the trails, because there are all these trails behind our house as well. And it was a really nice environment to grow up in. I spent a lot of time in the woods outside, and just the area I grew up in New Jersey. It was called Warren, New Jersey. It's like probably 45 minutes west of here, in the hills and trees. So that was really nice. I don't think I really appreciated how much it influenced me until I moved to the cities and was craving some of that. And then since I've been an adult, I've lived pretty much only in cities. And I lived in Switzerland for a year.
I believe we have a pause here. I'm sorry.
Lived in Israel for almost a year, and then I started studying painting in Paris.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. I'm getting a connection. A warning that my internet connection is unstable. There's nothing I can do about it. Then we'll plow ahead. Shall we go to the first picture?
Sure.
I love this picture with your smile.
Yeah, a friend of mine took that photo when she came to an open studio. So this is probably my studio looking the best it looks, because it was all set up for visitors. And in this photo, I'm sewing glass beads onto one of my digital prints of the eggs that I took. And so I did it. I worked with the eggs by photographing them, and then some of them I just took the photographs and I worked by sewing in them. And then on the wall behind me, you can see some of them I cut out the photographs and I mounted them on panels and gilded them. And then there's a few pieces from some other series of mine. One of them was more figurative, which you can see on the left, and in the bottom right, you can see a painting, an oil painting I did. And then there's just that little paper mache guy there that was a project that I kind of abandoned, but then I just liked him, so I kept him hanging around.
It looks like a nice guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oops, wait. Here we go.
So this, I put this one in. There was a long period of time where I was doing still lives, oil painting, which is what I studied when I was living in Paris, in an atelier. And I really got into painting rocks because I just loved how the light would fall on them. And it was really about the quietness and the form and the light. And it didn't really have like a bigger meaning to it. But I found that when I was painting things, I kind of gave each rock setup a personality, or just had some kind of meaning to it that was important just to myself. And I wanted to put this one in because it sort of represented my painting from earlier on. And then it also was like, I didn't realize at the time, but it is very nature inspired. And I was kind of just at the time thinking of it more as like practicing formal paintings. But when I look at it now, I see that my color palette kind of has carried through. and in these curved forms that I tend to gravitate towards, and a certain softness and quietness.
All right.
Next.
I went twice there. Sorry.
That's okay. There you go. Okay. So at this actually, this one I was working on before the other one. I kind of made a mistake when I sent them to you. When I first moved overseas, I was spending a lot of time by myself, and you can kind of see a little bit of loneliness in here. And art for me has always been a way to cope with my emotions. It's just been that's why I do it. It helps me express how I'm feeling and then understand how I'm feeling. And the different series that I work on over time have looked pretty different from one another, because I think I'm really responding to my life at the time. And these are extracted 3 images that I ended up making a little story that's on my website. This is a very simple story, but so I call these guys the bean people, and I've drawn a lot of them over time. And when I was in Paris, I had a solo show of these guys. And then the next photo, you can turn, when I went to one of the Gowanus Open Studios, I met a woodworker, and he did such beautiful work. And his name is Rex Kalhoff, if I'm pronouncing it right. Anyhow, I asked him if he would create this bean guy in wood for me, and I gave him some technical drawings, and we came up with this guy. And then I had a series of, I think there's 7 of them in existence, and I was really excited because they all sold really quickly. And I've kept one, and yeah, so this little guy's dear to my heart, and I'm not 100% sure what he has to do with the rest of my work, but I went into some figurative work. If you turn the slide, this is the next one. I feel like I was.
You do like the egg shape, and I notice even in the background you have a rotund shape there that reminiscent of an egg. So.
Yeah. It's like these curvy organic forms that I gravitate towards, and then using these natural materials, and you can see that these like egg forms, I didn't even realize, but they keep showing up in my work over and over. And this one, so the bean people, at one point I was feeling like, well, I don't know, I moved on in my life, and I felt like I was kind of, they went to rest for a little while. But then these figures emerged, which were more minimal than the other ones. And in this one, the pink fuzzy stuff is dryer lint. And I started drawing these figures when, I can't remember when it was. It was one of the first big mass shootings that happened, and I was really upset about it. And I wanted to put images of like love and safety and security out into the world as much as I could. I felt like that was like the only thing I could do, because you feel so helpful at this when something like that happens.
Warm and cuddly and reassuring. Yes, I like that.
Yeah. So I did this whole series. I just call them the line people. I'm not so great at naming things, but yeah. So these kind of like, I don't know if in a way they kind of morphed from the other one, or maybe they're their own thing. I don't really know. But then I also started thinking about like the environmental impact of things at the same time. And my studio was in my house for a while because my son was born and very small. So I was doing a lot of domestic things, and family was really at the center of my work. And I sort of brought that in by doing a lot of family images, and the dryer lint is sort of like the product of life in the household in a family. So I think if you go to the next slide, yeah, so I brought it into this one too.
World's smallest parka.
Yeah. It escapes me right now what that is called. A Mouty, a Mati or a Mouty. I can't remember. It's
Anorak. Well,
yeah, it's like AMAUTI. It's like a special jacket that that's like typically worn up in the Arctic, and they carry their babies around in there, and somehow they can slide them right in front, the women, to like nurse them and then slide them back, and it keeps them warm. And I was just thinking about, again, this connection and survival, but then it kept popping up in my mind, this like climate change, and not really totally making the connection consciously, but throughout my work, there's this like whole thing of like survival in the life cycle of birth and like reproduction, birth, nurturing, and then like taking care of one another. It's I think the reason why I put all these different images together today is because I'm actually packing up my studio. I had mentioned to you because I'm going to be renovating. So I was like looking over all my stuff, and it's interesting trying to see the correlation between everything. So if you go to the next slide, the dryer lint is in this one as well. So
it's a great use of dryer lint. Love it.
Yeah, I call this one a womb of one's own. It's kind of after a room of and the images in the background are all imagery from the kitchen. There's like the one that is in my hand that I'm holding, that's a reflection on a plate with like a little drop of water on it. And the one to the right is a baking pan, and there's like coffee foam in one of them, and the top left is the bottom of a cast iron pot, and the top right was looking down at the stem of a wine glass. So I took all this imagery of photographs I did in my kitchen, because I was, like I said, I was raising my kids and I was working out of my house, and it was all very surrounded by domesticity. And I was like, I can't fight this like conflict of my art or my home. So I just kind of embraced it and brought it all together. And
between the kitchen and the dryer lint, you really brought the home, the essential home stuff in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was questioning my role, actually, like my identity as like a housewife in a way, which was always just an odd identity to have. I mean, I think of myself as an artist, but at the same time, I was a mom and a wife, and I was doing all these domestic things all day long. And so this piece is a little bit about that identity crisis, maybe, I don't know. So all these pieces come out of the holder there, and you can move them around, and the contents inside move. So they're kind of like a toy. And if you go to the next slide,
we're also a few minutes away.
Okay. I continued this series, and this one's bigger, and they became like toys that you play with, which was also just kind of on playing with the whole idea of manipulation on another level. So there's a whole series of these, and you can go to the next slide. So then when I started, so then the eggs reemerged, because I was boiling so many eggs for my children's lunches, and this happened. And I was photographing a lot of stuff in the kitchen, and then I just started exploring this idea of what the egg means symbolically, and the glass beads that are sewn onto this are, for me, they just kind of were a little bit like seeds or pollen or fertility. So there's a lot of symbolism in this, and you can go to the next one. This whole series was in a show that I did that opened on the day that the country closed down for COVID. So I built these sculptures that are all based on this theme that was trying to raise awareness of nature, and present it in a way that made it sort of rise to a holy religious level, to try and help people be more conscious of how important it is, and for our survival. You can go to the next one. I don't remember how many slides are left. So, and I wanted people to get involved. So I built these sculptures so you can actually interact. And this is the same sculpture, and it has little things in it that you can like pick your own grasses or find your own feathers, and you can just slide them in and out and kind of like play with it yourself, because I wanted to bring the viewer in. And you can go to the next one. And then after that series, I was missing painting. So I decided to go back to oil painting. And these next couple slides, you can just go through them. It's just what I've recently started doing. I was focusing on the seed pods and stuff that I sort of found while I was building the other series with the eggs and the sculptures. I used all this natural material, and instead of just throwing them back into the forest or throwing them away, I decided I would paint a lot of them first to help me get back into my oil painting. And now I'm going to see where I go. I'm not quite sure what my next step is.
Well, that's a great way, a great point to end. And I hope you stick with nature and dryer lint. That's really,
Yeah.
really a great piece. Dara, thank you so much. It was a great interview. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.